Do now Be'ez Hashem Yisborach Daf Chof Aleph. Maseches Peah Daf Chof Aleph. We're starting from the Mishna. We did already the Mishna. We're doing now the Gemara Lecharuvim. Mi mechaven lahem eseruchas. They said the Mishnah that you can give Peah from one tree or the other. And Glick says, Noisem Peah achs lezeisem shehoyu lahem b'chol haruach. So how do you know that all these zeisem are on the same side? How do we know that doesn't belong to a different side? The Gemara says on this, the city was set up in such a way that each side was recognizable, that this is west, and this is south, and this is north, and so on. Rabbi Yosef Berbun shall base Rabbi hoy lahem dalet badim and dalet ruchos and nice noch bad lefu ruchos. They had 4 poles. They had 4 poles. Dalet ruchos and nice noch bad lefu ruchos. Base Rabbi had 4 poles on the 4 sides, and that made sure that they gave for each dalet bad ma dalet ruchos. And this nochal bad lefi ruchos. Bad, the word bad can either mean a pole or it can mean an olive tree. Dalet badim ma dalet ruchos and this nochal bad lefi ruchos. I think here dalet badam is more probably means olive trees. Noisem l'chol bad, noisem l'chol bad. They gave for each. It's the language is hard. What means noisem l'chol bad? It means they gave for each side from that bad. Dalet badim 4 olive trees. The dalet ruchos here. When noisem l'chol bad means they give each side from one bad. So I don't know the language what exactly it fits in. If you learn it means 4 poles. 4 poles for the 4 sides. It's not mustaber. 4 poles, 4 corners. Yeah. Hoysham gimel alama. Sari shoynem royen eser tzoyim. Tzoyim royen eser shoynem. Ene shoynem royen ze ezer. Mafresh menosh roshim. Rishonim is like Roshim, the end. And some al Roshim, and Mafish and Roshim al Roshim. Hazarei Asadeyu min echad, Afal Pisho is Tegerono is nice and Peah achas. Even though he plans to make 2 separate piles, he gives 1 Peah. Because it's the same kind, even though he's trying to make 2 separate piles. Zerah Shnei Minim. If he has 2 separate kinds, he has chitim and soirim. Abisha is a goyin echad. He's going to mix them together. Noisim shtei peyas. He has to give for each field peyas separately. However, if it's 2 kinds of chitim, 2 kinds, there's red wheat, there's white wheat, 2 kinds of chitim. Asan goyin achas noisim peyas achas. Asan shtei geronas noisim shtei peyas. Then it depends what he has in mind. If he's planning to make it into 1 pile, he gives 1. If he 2 separate piles, then he gives 2 separate payas. Zora Shimon Sham Mitzpal of Gamliel. All the Bishkas are gozes. V'sha'alu Amar Nochem Alavle Mekubala Ni Merab Meisha Shekibel Mer Abba Shekibel Men Azugas Shekibel Men Anavim Shalochem Yerushalmi Simplified. There is a name in the Chitim. A song going to ask the Peah. Shon Stei Geronas Shnei Peyas. So he asked this shaila, and he told him this answer. He should know, depends what are you planning. If it's two kinds of varieties of wheat, if you're planning to make it into one pile, you give one peah. Planning to make it two separate piles, you give two peahs. Now we'll go to the sugya. The sugya is going to talk more details on this. A person that's making two separate piles, two kinds of wheat, not two minam, one min, but shnei mina chitam. So there's two kinds. One is called Agdu, one is called Shemutit. One is called Agdu, one is called Shemutit. And the interpretation says that Agdu is the better one. Simon, you can say Aleph is better, and Shemutit is the inferior wheat. And this sugya is going to be a little bit complicated. So I'll just give an Agdama. There is the first half of he has a field, and there's two sides. Let's take the right side and the left side. The right side grows the Agdoi wheat, and the left side the Shemutis. And he starts cutting, and we'll make it into 4 squares. A is the Chatzi Rishon Shel Agdoi is called A. Chatzi Rishon Shel Shemutis is B. So that's what he does first, A and B, these 2 squares. Then he goes further on, continues to C. That's the second half of the Agdoi is called C, and the second half of the Shemutis is called D. This is how we start with this Gemara. So we start like this. The first case. Initially, he had in mind to make it into one big pile, these 2 varieties of wheat. It's one mean, it's a little bit different. So he caught the square A and square B, and then in his brain he thought, I want to make it into one big pile. And then he changed his mind. He said, no, you know what, I want to make it 2 separate. I'm not going to make it into one pile. So when he's continuing cutting now, C and D, he has already in his mind to make it 2 separate. So what's the halacha? Then, since he changed his mind, he's planning to divide it into 2 separate kinds, 2 separate piles. Even the part that he cut, that's A upon B, he's not allowed, even though B'shas he cut it, he still wanted to make it one. But when he changed his mind, he cannot separate from A to B. Now there's difficulty here a little bit that it doesn't touch. What do you mean he wants to be mafish from A and B? Isn't it A and B finished already? So how can he be mafish from Tolish? So I don't know. This is I think that's ambiguous here, but this is the case that he wants to be mafish from A on B, and we're talking that he finished already cutting A and B. He finished cutting A and B, and then he changed his mind. He wanted to make it in 2 separate piles. So he wants to be mafish from A and B with the argument that when I cut A and B, I still hadn't planned to make it one. You say no. Since you changed your mind, you cannot do it. Now go to the second case. Here's the opposite, exactly reverse case. When he started cutting A and B, he wanted to make it separate. But then when after he finished doing A square B, he said, you know what, let me make it one big pile. So then he could be mafish from A, even from A and B, kavachomer from C and D. Because now we go busted his machshava right now, and now he was ma'ariv already, and everything became one big thing, so he can do it. Now this piece of Yerushalmi, not clear, but the best we can understand it, it goes back to the first case, where he first wanted to make it one, and then changed his mind to make it 2 individual Garanas. So then we say you cannot be mafresh b'chlal from A on B, and not from and not from C on D, not. So, however, you could be mafresh Min Agda Agda. Oh, I didn't write here correct. So Min Agda Agda means from C upon A. It says you cannot do, what can't you do? You cannot be mafish min Agda Agda. Again, A is Agda and B is Shemutis. And B is Shemutis. Chatziyah shel Agda is A. Chatziyah shel Shemutis is B. Chatziyah sheni shel Agda is C. So the question is, could you do from C upon A? That's the question here. So even from C on A is also an issue now. Why? It's an interesting point. But both are Agdoi. But the answer is that the A, when he did A, he wanted to mix everything together. Then he decided to make it individual. So the C is a single thing, and A has like a mixture in it. It has a mixture of ki'ilu, not purely A. So how can it be mafresh from a thing that's purely Agdoi and a thing that's mixed to other kinds? So that's why he says you can only do that b'shekila today. The chazra chiyuv Peah lo imrim b'shah zois kvar ein taroives be'ei. After it's chazr, it says in the beginning of the Masechta that if you finished everything, then the chiyuv, a new chiyuv is chal on the oimer. And then we say, okay, right now it's already separated. There's no machshava of A existing anymore. A is purely A. It doesn't have something else besides Agdoi. So now you could be mafish from C on A. So this is such a case of that he changed his mind, and now he wants to make it two separate Geranas. After he cut half of this field, A and B, he wants to make it two separate. It's so bad that he cannot even be mafish from A on A, only if it's kila asadeu. This is still needs a lot of beer, and it's still not clear at all what this means and why is it so. Let's go to the last piece of this sugya. So here we say that initially he wanted to do one goyren, and then he changed his mind. It's similar to the first case, the Bava Kama. Initially he wanted to make it into goyren achas, and then he decided to make it separate. Then he can be mafish min Agdah la Agdah. V'chol hashmutis shesham niftera, and the shmutis is niftera. Why? Because the shmutis had a time of chiyuv when he cut it, and he had in mind to make it a goyren achas. It was a shas chiyuv, and then it was niftar when he changed his mind in the middle of cutting the half of an egdah. He said, you know what? Let me make it into two. So now it's poka the chiyuv from the shmutis. And karo hayashmutis roy the potter al the egdah v'shuv nitche. It was nitche when he thought, let me make it into two separate. It's nitche. So now he's not mechuyev b'chlal to make any afrasha on shmutis. The question is, but he's mafish min Agdah ala Agdah, and didn't we just say now that you cannot do it? That you cannot be mafish min Agdah ala Agdah. Why? Because the first one had machshava of goyren achas. The second one is separately to make two geranas. So could be also only meticulously sedeu. Only if he finished already everything, then he can do it. Then it can be mafresh, because then it's chazer chiyuv lo emrim. And now, if we say that the new chiyuv is chal, he had already in mind to make two separate geranas. So now it doesn't have a taruvas of machshava of something else. So it could be that this ma'afish min Agdah la'Agdah is a hemshech to this last case. Ma'afish min Agdah la'Agdah shekila sedeu, anikila sedeu afilam min Agdah la'Agdah ena ma'afish. Because it doesn't usually say the words ma'afish min Agdah la'Agdah only here. It doesn't say here kasa chatzi Agdah. It says ena ma'afish min Agdah kiner the ba of a kama inama. I'd say inama al Baba Basra. So this should be called Baba Basra. This is the last case that the Yerushalmi brings. The Yerushalmi brings here three different cases. Omer Rav Ze'ev Shem V'Yochanan Im bas halacha tachas yadecha ve'enat yadei ma'tiva al tafligenu l'davar acher. Don't say, okay, it's probably a mistake, something is wrong with it. Shekam halachas nem Moshe MiSinai v'kulim shekoyes b'Mishna. Sometimes it's halacha LeMoshe MiSinai, and it's inside the Mishna. Omer b'Oven v'Yos Shnei mina chitem ilulei shbarnachim peshton yedem yinu. So it's really Halacha LeMoshe MiSinai, and really we thought it's something that's to Peah the Yedin. So don't say that something is a mistake. Could be it's a mekubal Halacha LeMoshe MiSinai. That's the right thing to do. Rabbi Ze'ev Shem Rav Laza. Echtov lechem rubei terasi chi rubei shatoy nichtava hem rubei dvarim nedrashim min ha'peh min ha'dvarim ha'handrashim min ha'ksav. So there is drashas that you learn out from Torah Shebal Peh and drashas from Torah Shebal Ksav. It's more drashas man fa'digma b'cheini alkeini chaviv min hein advarim ha'nedrashim min ha'peh min ha'chaviv. It's not more. It's chavivim. Because the chachas take up a big part in the Torah, and it still doesn't help. Omer Rab Oven, if I would have written you so much of the Torah, you'd be just like the nations, because the nations also have a lot of books. So that's why we kept most of the things Baal Peh. Things are said Baal Peh. And then the dvarim b'chsav. Ein God meiz mem chavev. Ma'achsiv ki al pi dvarim ele karati itcha bris vas Yisro. Do amre oitz sheba Peh chaviv. It's ki Peah dvarim. On the Torah sheba Peh, that's more chavev. V'yochna bidnu b'shim chad omer im shematem mashe Peh v'shematem mashe b'chsav b'chsav and nikoyes itcha bris. Lav and nikoyes itcha bris. That means you're not allowed to write dvarim sheba Peh b'chsav. In the same reverse, you're not allowed to say dvarim sheba b'chsav b'al Peh. V'charon omer. שמעת מה שבפה וקיימת מה שבכסף, אתה מקבל שכר. If you do both, you do בכסף and בעל פה, then you מקבל שכר. אם לאו, if חס ושלום only keep דבר שבכסף, אין את מקבל שכר, it's nothing. רבי לא אמר, עליהם ועליהם, it says עליהם ועליהם. ככל, דברים הדברים. Mikra Mishna Talmud Agadah. אפילו מה שתלמוד ועוסק עושה להוירס נהרבי כונם משמסינה מהטעם, יש דבר שיאמר אדם לאיזה חודש הוא משיב וחבאר אולי כבר היה ללומם. אם החדש something, everything was given from Moshe בסיני. זה בשם שמואל מיידים להם הלוחס, להם הגודס, להם הטויסס, להם התלמוד. You cannot learn out anything from halacha. It means you cannot pasken from thing that's halacha, because maybe you don't pasken like that. Learn Agadah, learn Tosefta, element Talmud. Talmud is the final decision what the Amiroi made about a certain halacha. Ton Ratachafte. Okay, this is we did now Daf Chof Aleph and Chof Beis. Chof Aleph and Chof Beis.